In the spring of 1943, the Eastern Front held its breath. After the crushing defeat at Stalingrad, Hitler and his high command were desperate for a decisive victory to regain the initiative. Their eyes turned to a massive bulge in the front line, a salient around the city of Kursk. This was where they would launch a colossal offensive, codenamed Operation Citadel. The plan was bold and straightforward. Two huge armored pincers, one from the north and one from the south, would snap shut, encircling and destroying a huge concentration of Soviet forces. It was to be the greatest tank battle in history, a death ride for the Red Army. The Germans amassed an incredible force, nearly 1 million men, 2,700 tanks and assault guns, and over 2,000 aircraft. Among them were the newest, most powerful weapons in the German arsenal, the Panther and Tiger tanks, and the Ferdinand tank destroyer. Hitler was confident. He declared, "The victory at Kursk must shine like a beacon to the world." But this beacon would never be lit. Unbeknownst to the German high command, their every move was being watched. Their most secret plans were not secret at all. They were sitting on a desk in the Kremlin, being studied by Stalin and his generals. The Soviets knew the what, the where, and the when of Operation Citadel, long before the first German tank revved its engine. How was this possible? This is the story of one of the most successful and impactful intelligence operations of the Second World War. A story of spies, codes, and deception that turned the tide of the war on the Eastern Front. It's the story of how the Red Army knew what was coming at Kursk. The key to this incredible intelligence coup wasn't a single James Bond-like figure, but a complex web of sources, meticulously pieced together by Soviet intelligence. The most crucial thread in this web led straight to Switzerland. Here, a spy ring code named Lucy was operating with astonishing effectiveness. The central figure was a man named Rudolf Roeseler, a German anti-Nazi exile living in Lucerne. Roeseler, codenamed Lucy, had sources deep within the German high command itself. To this day, the exact identities of his informants, codenamed Werther, Teddy, and Olga, remain one of the great unsolved mysteries of World War II espionage, but their information was pure gold. Starting as early as March 1943, Roeseler began transmitting incredibly detailed and accurate intelligence about German plans. He provided the precise composition of German army groups, the numbers of tanks and aircraft being marshaled, and the exact locations of their staging areas. Most importantly, he revealed the primary strategic objective, a massive pincer movement aimed at the Kursk salient. The level of detail was staggering. It wasn't just general strategy. It was operational specifics, unit designations, and even the names of the commanding generals. This information flowed from Germany to Roeseler in Switzerland, who then passed it to another Soviet agent, Sander Roddo, codenamed Dora. Roddo, a Hungarian cartographer, ran the spy network from Geneva, transmitting the intel via clandestine radio to Moscow. The Lucy ring was the Soviets' eyes and ears inside the German war machine. But the Lucy ring wasn't the only source. Another vital stream of information came from a place the Germans thought was completely secure, Bletchley Park, the British code-breaking center. The brilliant minds at Bletchley had famously cracked the German Enigma code, allowing them to read top-secret Wehrmacht communications. While the British were wary of sharing this ultra-sensitive intelligence directly, for fear of revealing their code-breaking success, they found ways to pass crucial information to their Soviet allies. This was often done through official military liaison channels, disguised as information from a reliable source in Switzerland, cleverly providing cover for both Bletchley Park and the Lucy ring. Through these ultra-decrypts, the Soviets received confirmation of the German build-up, logistics movements, and even Hitler's postponements of the attack. Every delay, meant to allow for more Panther and Tiger tanks to reach the front, was a gift to the Soviets, giving them more precious time to prepare. The Enigma intercepts complemented the human intelligence from the Lucy ring, creating a rich, multi-layered picture of German intentions. Moscow was receiving daily, sometimes hourly, updates on Operation Citadel. It was as if the Soviet High Command, the Stavka, had a seat at Hitler's strategic planning meetings. The third pillar of Soviet intelligence was much closer to home, their own extensive network of partisans and frontline reconnaissance units. Thousands of partisans operating behind German lines wreaked havoc on supply lines, but they also served as an invaluable source of on-the-ground intelligence. They reported on troop movements, railway traffic, and the location of supply dumps. They could see with their own eyes the massive concentration of German armor and infantry moving towards the front. Meanwhile, Red Army reconnaissance patrols and aerial surveillance constantly probed the German lines, capturing soldiers for interrogation and photographing defensive positions. This tactical intelligence from the front lines corroborated the high-level strategic information coming from Switzerland and Britain. The puzzle pieces were fitting together perfectly. By April 1943, the picture was undeniable. On April 12th, Stalin was presented with a detailed report based on this wealth of intelligence. It laid out the German plan for Operation Citadel in exquisite detail. The report didn't just predict an attack. It pinpointed the exact axes of advance for the German 9th Army from the north and the 4th Panzer Army from the south. The Soviets knew the strength of the attacking forces and their objectives. Armed with this unprecedented foreknowledge, Stalin made a fateful decision, one that would define the battle and perhaps the war itself. Instead of launching a preemptive strike, which some of his generals advocated, Stalin opted for a strategy of deliberate defense. He decided to let the Germans attack, to lure them into a prepared killing ground, bleed them white, and then launch a massive counteroffensive. It was a colossal gamble. The Red Army embarked on a gargantuan feat of military engineering. Over 300,000 civilians, mostly women and children, were mobilized alongside soldiers to turn the Kursk salient into the most formidable defensive network ever constructed. They dug 4 months, creating a defense in-depth system that was 8 lines deep and stretched over 100 miles. They laid an astonishing number of mines. Over 500,000 anti-tank and anti-personnel mines were planted, creating a density of nearly 4,000 mines per mile of frontage. They dug hundreds of miles of trenches and anti-tank ditches. They constructed thousands of camouflaged gun emplacements, bunkers, and command posts. The Soviets knew exactly where the German armored spearheads would strike, so they concentrated their anti-tank artillery in those sectors. Entire anti-tank strongpoints were created, designed to funnel the German Panzers into pre-sighted kill zones. The Red Air Force was re-equipped and its tactics refined, preparing to challenge the Luftwaffe for control of the skies. More than 1 million soldiers, over 3,300 tanks, 20,000 artillery pieces, and 2,600 aircraft were massed to meet the German onslaught. The entire salient became a giant trap, patiently waiting to be sprung. The German army, believing it was preparing a surprise attack, was about to walk into the greatest ambush in military history. The final piece of the intelligence puzzle was the exact date of the attack. Originally planned for May, Hitler postponed Citadel several times. Each delay was dutifully reported to Moscow. In late June, the intelligence from Lucy and Bletchley Park indicated the attack was imminent, likely between July 3rd and 6th. Frontline intelligence confirmed this, as captured German sappers admitted they were clearing paths through minefields for an attack on July 5th. On the night of July 4th, the Soviet commanders, absolutely certain of the time and place of the assault, made their move. Just hours before the German artillery was scheduled to open up, a massive, pre-emptive Soviet artillery barrage crashed down on the German assembly areas. The thunderous roar of thousands of Soviet guns announced, in no uncertain terms, that the surprise was over. When the German assault began at dawn on July 5, 1943, they didn't achieve the swift breakthrough they had expected. Instead, they slammed head-on into the deeply layered Soviet defenses. The Panther and Tiger tanks, which Hitler had pinned his hopes on, found themselves crawling through a hellscape of minefields, anti-tank ditches, and relentless artillery fire. They were ambushed from all sides by well-hidden Soviet anti-tank guns and T-34 tanks. The element of surprise, the cornerstone of German blitzkrieg tactics, was completely gone. The Germans were forced into a brutal, grinding battle of attrition, exactly the kind of fight the Soviets had prepared for, and the Germans could not afford. For a week, the battle raged. The Germans pushed forward, but at a horrific cost. In the south, the 2 SS Panzer Corps fought its way towards the village of Prokhorovka, leading to the legendary, though often mythologized, tank battle on July 12th, but it was too little, too late. The German offensive had lost its momentum, bled dry by the prepared Soviet defenses. Having absorbed the German attack and inflicted crippling losses, the Red Army unleashed its own massive counter-offensives, Operation Kutuzov to the north and Operation Remyontsov to the south. The exhausted and depleted German forces were thrown back, not just to their starting lines, but far beyond. The Battle of Kursk was a catastrophic defeat for Germany. They lost hundreds of their best tanks, including many of the new Panthers and Tigers, and tens of thousands of their most experienced soldiers. These were losses they could never replace. From this point forward, the German army on the Eastern Front would never again mount a major strategic offensive. The initiative passed permanently to the Red Army, which would remain on the attack for the rest of the war, all the way to Berlin. The victory at Kursk was a triumph of Soviet sacrifice and industrial might, but it was a victory made possible by intelligence. The foreknowledge of Operation Citadel allowed the Red Army to perfectly counter the German plan, to choose the battlefield, and to dictate the terms of engagement. The spies of the Lucy Ring, the code breakers at Bletchley Park, and the partisans behind the lines had given the Soviet soldiers in the trenches the ultimate weapon, the truth. The road to victory was still long and brutal, but the turning point had been reached. In the minefields and kill zones of the Kursk salient, thanks to one of the greatest intelligence successes of all time. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into history.